the Bible teaches not necessarily every combination of sin. Here is every combination of sin that you're not supposed to do. I mean, the Old Testament almost does that. You can go through the Levitical law, and laws aren't there. Laws are only there because of something that has happened that they're now wanting to help reinforce that to not happen again. So, like, laws aren't there to diminish you. Laws are in place. Well, they're not supposed to. Laws are there to help life flourish, right? You know, if there's some kind of law or some kind of thing in place, it's because somebody did that stupid thing, and now they don't want that stupid thing to happen anymore. So there's okay. So now there's, you know, no skateboarding off the 10th story, you know, into the pool. Well, I wonder why that sign's on that. Well, because probably some idiot tried it, you know, and broke his leg or whatever. So now there's a sign that says that. Okay. So, like, going through Leviticus and all this stuff, it seems tedious. It really actually, in context, wouldn't have been all that tedious, because the children of Israel had just spent 400 years in slavery in a pagan nation. In Egypt, completely away from their tradition, completely away from even their land, completely away from everything, being taught these foreign practices. So they had a lot to unlearn. You know, all this detailed Leviticus stuff, well, you know, don't sew two kinds of cloth together, or, you know, don't boil your goat in his mother's milk. That's oddly specific. What is happening here? It's because there would have been pagan wrong practices. Don't boil honey. Why can't I boil honey? Well, probably because there's certain pagan practices and witchcraft practices that were used, that were done, and God is now building this kind of fence law to say, I don't want you to fall back into these old pagan ways that you just spent 400 years around. We're now moving on to the new thing, to the right thing. But now even Jesus, on top of that, Jesus quotes from Deuteronomy a lot, but then the second one is Leviticus. But in Deuteronomy, I encourage anyone, as you read, the next time you read through Deuteronomy, circle every time it says the heart. Like, even the gospel according to Moses is what we could call the book of Deuteronomy. The gospel according to Moses. You will see God's emphasis is not these tedious laws. Even back then, it is the heart. It was the heart. Even in the Old Testament, God's greatest concern was people's heart. I mean, he said this. He had Samuel say this to Saul, right? Obedience is better than sacrifice. Right?
Right.
You know, like God's heart did not change when Jesus died on the cross.
No, he's the same.
He's the same, and the concern has always been the heart. Okay, I'm getting what I'm saying with all of that. Even now in the New Testament, a lot of that old law has been fulfilled. And so Jesus and Paul, they are not teaching a legalistic gospel. They're teaching a principle of ethics. They're teaching an ethic, and it's a way in which we are to live. And so we take up this ethic and we then apply it, we wrestle with it, and we apply it to our lives. And so that's why we have some open-handed issues and some closed-handed issues. You know, do not steal. Well, it didn't say I couldn't take candy from, the gas station on Thursdays at 4 p.m. It never said that. Well, it doesn't have to. It doesn't say tax evasion. The government just gets what's coming to them. Well, actually, stealing is meant to be that broad.
Yes, it is.
It's meant to be that. All of these are, in a lot of ways, are meant to be that broad, because it's not teaching this legalistic gospel. It is teaching an ethic, a lifestyle in which we then have to take up and apply to our lives.
I believe the Lord has never given us a long list of to-do and not to-do list, because sinful man would figure out how to keep the list and still stay in sin.
Yeah.
I mean, he could figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's what the Jews did with certain aspects of the law, even now. Because the Bible talks about in the fourth commandment, thou shalt remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And so in it, they weren't to travel. You know this?
I gotta keep talking, because there was recently just an Instagram where a Jewish guy, he set up a certain type of pole all around his neighborhood.
Right.
So the Jewish people in his neighborhood could go anywhere in the community, because technically it was part of their home.
That's what they would do. And so they were told to rest, and so then the legalism comes in, and now rest is defined how many miles you can travel or what you can do during that day, what activities.
Right.
So what the Jews would do is they would take a spoon, a fork, a pot, a pan, something from their house. Maybe they wanted to travel to another city, even on the Sabbath day. They would take that spoon, bury it in the ground, and declare that that is part of their household over there. Then they could travel to that area and say they're still within the bounds of their house. Right. See, that's the deceitfulness of the heart.
Exactly.
That's why God has never given us a list, because you'll figure out how to get around the list and still do what you want.
Man, it's so true.
That's why it has to be an inward transformation.
Yes.
It's an inward conviction from the inside out, and you can never force from the outside this. Mm-hmm. Laws can keep you boxed in, but we do that as parents. Just make one other comment. I put certain laws upon my children. You were one of these, but even those even now at home. My youngest is still there, and picking up the room. We're going to, he's beyond this, so I don't want to embarrass him, but I mean, in days bygone, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to take a bath, you're going to do these sort of things. And the reason being is because as a parent, I know the benefits of that, but listen, It's sad if he's 25 years old and still has to be told to brush his teeth. Somewhere as a parent, we hope there's an inward conviction that kicks in and says, hey, I want to keep my teeth in my head. Mm-hmm. And he starts doing what he wants to do for himself from an inward desire. Listen, we live from God from the inward out. And if you love me, you'll keep my commandment. It's not because I'm being forced from this exterior. It's because there's something on the inside of me that says, God, I love you. And keeping your commandments are not burdensome. Yeah. It's life.
Yes.
It's freedom.
Exactly.
Amen.
No, that's good. Freedom really is kind of like a paradox. If Romans 6, and I've said this before, but, Romans 6, we're no longer slaves to sin, mm-hmm. but now he uses the exact same word. We are slaves to righteousness. Right. And I've used this example before in a sermon, but if I want to not be a slave to an unhealthy lifestyle, obesity, whatever, I have to make myself, just to use this word, a slave to eating the right food, going to the gym, working out, having a healthy lifestyle. It really is this paradox, for mm-hmm. lack of a better word, of you're gonna serve somebody. I mean, Bob Dylan hit the nail on the head. You're gonna serve somebody. Mm-hmm. It might be the devil or it might be the Lord, but I'm quoting the song. But
I understand.
But you're gonna serve somebody.
But all of life's that way. Mm-hmm. You want to be an engineer, you're going to be disciplined. That's what he just described, being disciplined. Discipline in thought, discipline in action, in deed. If you're going to go to medical school, you're going to have to be very disciplined to stay into that kind of educational realm. Or if you're going to be an athlete, very disciplined. So the point just simply being, tell me some aspect of life that doesn't require being a disciple.
Yeah. Nothing.
All
right, I can't get it to play on this, but I'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
And I'll show this to you because it's actually kind of funny. Okay, here we go. Kosher telephone poles.
Oh, yeah.
Kosher. If you look on the poles, there are these like gray PVC pipes. PVC pipe. We got permission to install one on every single pole. See that? There you go. There's another one. And it's called an Eruv. According to Orthodox Jewish practice, on Shabbat is a day of rest. And we don't have anything in our pockets. We don't carry anything on Shabbos. And it's so relaxing not to have any phone, keys. You're just free. But if you have to push your kids in the carriage to shul, or if you need a key to your house, it could be a little bit of a problem. So there's a hack. It's not really a hack, but it's Jewish law that says if there's a barrier, like a fence or a string around the city, it deems the city more of a private domain and less of a public domain, and one is allowed to carry on Shabbos. So we created, with the city's permission, a marker on every single pole. Oh, that one's missing. No, it's actually on the other side. I remember.
Yeah, he's about to send us then.
We put up a marker on every single pole to, according to halacha, create this Eruv. and I have to drive around every week and check that nothing
Anyways.
fell down.
Yeah.
And Lord bless this man, but that's ridiculous.
Well, we love the Jewish people, but that's the legalism and the really man trying to finagle a way to,
Yes.
I think, break the intent. And Jesus comes along, that's what he says. Listen, Sabbath wasn't, man wasn't made for the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Sabbath was made for the man. So this
Right.
actually happened. He talked about the string. I don't know what war it was. I think it's the 1973 war, and maybe somebody here can help. But just basically said they put a whole string around the city. So during the war, they had movement. They could get about. And the Orthodox Jews, their main concern was, don't let the string be broken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That must be an intact string around the city.
Yeah.
And it cannot be broken.
Yeah.
If not, we'll start breaking the fourth commandment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deceitfulness of the heart of man. Or that's how deceitful the heart can be in man, Isaiah says. Isaiah? Is that
Jeremiah 17.
Jeremiah 17, thank you.
Yeah.
As soon as I said it, I knew it was. Anyway, because he'll figure out how to put together the grocery list and still do what he wants. And feels like he's doing. Okay, so no wonder the Pharisees came in Jesus' time and thought they were high and above everybody else, praying. And then there was the man who stood on the steps there of the temple, and he wouldn't even lift his head, and he bowed, and he smote his breast, and he said, Lord, forgive me, a sinner. And Jesus said, that man.
Yeah.
Humility.
Yeah.